Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajachana Ranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajrakacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Shri Madhus Devangre Sesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajrakacharya Ashtotra Shata Shri Shri Madhus Devangre Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sekaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Yamunamai Ki Jai Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Nugovardhan Dham Ki Jai all glories to the humble devotees. All glories to the humble devotees. All glories to the humble devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 30, Activities of the Prachetas, and we're on text 31. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Varam Vrinimahe Tapi Nata Tvat parata parat na I antas tvad vibhutinam so nanta iti giyase varam vrinnimahe tapi nata tvat parata parat nahyantas tvad vibhutinam sonanta iti giyase param vrinnimahe tapi nata tvat parata parat na yantas tvad vibhutinam sonanta itigiyase param vrinnimahe tapi nata tvat parata parat na yantas tvad vibhutinam sonanta itigiyase Okay, word by word. Varam benediction. Vrinnimahe, we shall pray for. Atta api, therefore. Nata, O Lord, tvat from you. Paratat parat, beyond the transcendence. Na, not. E, certainly. Antaha, end. Tvat, your. Vibhutinam, of opulences. Saha, you. Anantaha, unlimited. Iti, thus. Giyase, are celebrated. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Dear Lord, we shall therefore pray for your benediction because you are the supreme, beyond all transcendence, and because there is no end to your opulences. Period. Consequently, you are celebrated by the name Ananta. Purport. There was no need for the Prachetas to ask any benediction from the Supreme Lord, because the devotees are simply satisfied by the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Dhruva Maharaj practiced severe austerities and penances to see the Supreme Lord, and his intention was to receive benediction from the Lord. He wanted to acquire the throne of his father, or attain an even better position. But when he was actually in the presence of the Supreme Lord, He forgot everything. He said, "My dear Lord, I do not wish to ask any benediction. This is the actual position of the devotee. The devotee simply wants to be in the presence of the Supreme Lord, either in this world or in the next, and engage in his service. This is the ultimate goal and benediction for the devotees." The Lord asked the Prachetas to pray for some benediction, and they said, "What kind of benediction should we pray for?" The Lord is unlimited, and there are unlimited benedictions. The purport is that if one must ask for benediction, he must ask for unlimited benediction. The words tat parataha are very significant in this verse. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is parata parat. The word para means transcendental, beyond this material world. Then personal Brahman effulgence is beyond this material world, and this is called param padam. Arura Kritchena Param Padam, from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 2, Text 32. Merging into the impersonal effulgence of the Lord is called Param Padam. But there is a higher transcendental position, which is the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavaniti Shabdite. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 11. The absolute truth is realized first as impersonal Brahman, then as Paramatma, and finally as Bhagavan. Thus, the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan, is Parata Parat, beyond Brahman and Paramatma realization. In this connection, Srila Jiva Goswami points out that Parata Parat means better than the best. The best is the spiritual world, and it is known as Brahman. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, is known as Par-Brahman. Therefore, Parata Parat means better than Brahman realization. As will be explained in the next verses, the Prachetas plan to ask the Lord for something that has no limit. The Lord's pastimes, qualities, forms, and names are all unlimited. There is no limit to his name, forms, pastimes, creation, and paraphernalia. The living entity cannot conceive of the unlimitedness of the unlimited. However, if living entities are engaged in hearing about the unlimited potencies of the Supreme Lord, they are factually connected directly to the unlimited. Such understanding of the unlimited becomes unlimited by hearing and chanting. Om Jnanativedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Kam Karitavachalam Pangam Langate Grim Yakripatamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dintaranam Vancha Kapadribishta Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So read the translation again. Dear Lord, we shall therefore pray for your benediction, because you are the supreme, beyond all transcendence, and because there is no end to your opulences. Consequently, you are celebrated by the name Ananta. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would hear the Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit, and he specifically would relish, as this is stated in the Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavan Das Thakur, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would relish specifically over and over and over again, hundreds of times, the pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj and Prahlad Maharaj, both. Governor Singadev Parents' Day coming up soon. So yeah, here in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, um, he's mentioning Dhruva Maharaj, and Prabhupada mentions how Dhruva Maharaj, he wanted to acquire the throne of his father or attain an even better position, and therefore he went to the forest and engaged in these severe austerities and penances. And his stepmother, Suruchi, she Dhruva Maharaj came to sit on the lap of his father, King. King had two wives, Suruchi, at least it's stated there, but Suruchi and Suniti. And Suruchi, as Javeda Prabhu mentions regularly, that the name Suruchi means one who's very beautiful. It's materially beautiful. Suruchi. And Suniti means one who's very virtuous. So Suniti, very virtuous mother, she was the mother of Dhruva Maharaj. And Suruchi, the very beautiful queen, she was the mother of his name, Anupam. Is it? Yes. The other brother. So Suruchi, her son was up on the lap of the king. You know, the beautiful queen's son was up on the lap of the king, and then Suniti, you know, virtuous mother, Dhruva Maharaj, he comes up to sit on the lap. And then Suruchi, she says, "Oh, you can't do that." Said, in essence, I mean, paraphrasing, it's in the Bhagavatam, but if you want to do that, you have to die and take another birth in my womb, and then you'll be qualified to sit on the king's lap, your father's lap. And interesting enough, the father of Dhruva Maharaj, he didn't say anything. You know, sometimes if like somebody wrongs you or somebody, tells you something that's offensive or, something like that, and then there's somebody witnessing it, sometimes, people will expect, or most of the time, right? People will expect, oh, this person's of a, moral character, then he's going to step in, she's going to step in and say something and defend me or whatever, especially if it's really bad. But yeah, sometimes it doesn't happen. And in this case, with Dhruva Maharaj's father, he just didn't say anything. And that just completely, just like thrashed Dhruva Maharaj's heart. He was very disturbed from it, upset. So then, he went to his mother's, Suniti, and then somehow, the idea came that, oh, well, you want, a better position than your father, then you have to worship God. That's where all benedictions come from God. Where's God? Okay, we'll go to the forest, right? So Dhruva Maharaj went to the forest as a young boy. So he's like about 5 years old. And there, right, Brahmanda Brahmanti Kon Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij says that the living entity, the soul, is wandering from species to species, country to country, planet to planet, all over. Sometimes they're born in Russia, like we have Dimitri here. Sometimes they're born in India, like Tapas. No, you weren't born in India. You were born in, sorry, please forgive me. You were born in Bangladesh, right? Yeah. Anyways, born different places. So, get the idea. Yeah, one birth he was there. So, traveling, transmigrating. And then different species, right? Cows, right? Hogs, dogs. And then by the grace of Krishna, one comes in contact with a bona fide spiritual master, with authentic spiritual master, a devotee of Krishna. And then by becoming connected with that bona fide spiritual master, with authentic, then they're connected to Krishna. So they work together. So Dhruva Maharaj, he was sincere, and his aims were pious. Means because he was going to God. He wasn't like, oh, all right, well, let me just try to become better than my father with some material arrangements. But he was going to God for it, going to Vishnu, Krishna. So it was pious. But yeah, so he's sincere. So therefore Krishna sent the spiritual master, Narada Muni. And Narada Muni, he engaged him in a process, right? In a process of God realization, self-realization, of chanting, right? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. He's chanting, and he was doing some, Triveda Prabhu used this word, rudimentary deity worship, which I think he was making out of the clay out of the river, and then so he's doing some deity worship, and so many other austerities. It's like really intense. So then eventually, through his intense austerity, it was like choking up the demigods, right? The breathing the whole universe. So he was so powerful, he was affecting demigods. I mean, it's suffocating. Yeah. So then eventually Lord Vishnu came, and he came riding on Garuda, right? Garuda Dev here came riding down, and then he appeared before Dhruva Maharaj, and Dhruva Maharaj, he offered his dandavats to Lord Vishnu, and he was just so awestruck. Like we're hearing here with the Prachetas, they're having darshan of Lord Vishnu as well. So awestruck, and he was a young boy also. So in terms of offering all these eloquent prayers and so on, a lot of the times, young boys or younger, they can't do things, and when they do things like that, people are very impressed. Like, you have a teenager or a person in their 20s, and they know some mridanga, and it's like, all right, man, pretty good, he knows mridanga. But if you get a 5-year-old on a mridanga and he's like really expert, then very impressive to people. Anyways, but so yeah, generally the young, it's difficult to have such talents. But so yeah, he was there, but then what happened is Lord Vishnu, he placed his conch shell on his head, and then after that he started offering all types of beautiful prayers to Lord Vishnu. And one of the ones that Prabhupada quotes, you could say most often quoted one of Dhruva Maharaj. It's on the Bhagavatam. I think it's like Hari Bhakti Sudadoya or something. But saying that the Dhruva Maharaj is praying that, oh, I was searching for I was searching for broken glass in the form of trying to get a better position than my father, and try to get greater kingdom and material. He was after the material acquisition. So I was searching for broken glass. But now I have got your now I have your darshan. I'm seeing you, and I'm completely satisfied. I'm completely satisfied, completely happy, and I found a great jewel, right, instead of the broken glass. So yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would relish these pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj over and over, Prahlad Maharaj. So yeah, it tells us something. And it's interesting because there's one verse, Sanskrit shlok, I was looking for it, I couldn't find it, but I'm not sure who it's from, but he's pretty much glorifying different devotees in the Bhagavatam. He glorifies Dhruva Maharaj. He says, where was Dhruva Maharaj's maturity? And he says, where was, he mentions Gajendra, he's an elephant. Yeah, okay. He mentions Gajendra, who's an elephant. He mentions Dhruva Maharaj, where was his maturity? He mentions Ugrasena, where was his chivalry, because he was conquered by Kamsa and so on. So in other words, he mentions all these different personalities within the Bhagavatam, which you could say from a mundane point of view, their material qualifications weren't there. There were certain lacking, you could say, in certain material qualifications. But in this particular verse, it says, Krishna, he does not look at the material qualifications, but he looks at the devotion. So therefore, Dhruva Maharaj and all these different personalities are glorified because of their devotion. So yeah, a lot of different people, they come to the path of Krishna consciousness, and they come for different reasons, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. They're searching for money, or they're searching for freedom from distress, and so on. Inquisitive. And he says that these people are pious, which is true. They're pious, right? And then, of course, there's four impious, or you say demoniac people, who don't come to the path. But to remain pious is not recommended. It means pious isn't pure. So there's a difference between being pious and being pure. Pious is good in the sense that it will, the pious people, they often they take to the path of Krishna consciousness. And yeah, that means they have some attraction for it, or they can have attraction for it. But to remain on that level is, we have to rise above that level, become pure. Because there's many pious people in the world, within religious circles, within those worshippers of Krishna, for example, very pious people. Christians, go through the list. There's many pious people in the world, good people. But that also can be shackling, or is shackling, in the sense that, okay, well, I worship God, or I worship Krishna, but I have my attachments. And yeah, they're good attachments. I'm not like, I'm not whatever, but they're good attachments in the sense that, okay, I have attachment to my family. Means material attachment. I'm talking about material attachment to my family, or whatever, so on. So we have to become, just like Dhruva Maharaj, he came with material purposes, but then through the process of spiritual practices, his chanting and so on, eventually getting darshan of Krishna, he became pure. In that he just wanted to please Krishna. He just wanted to serve Krishna. He didn't want anything from Krishna. Which is a huge change, because he really wanted a lot from Krishna at one point. But then he said, I don't want anything. So yeah, that's what Prabhupada says in the purport. He says, a devotee simply wants to be in the presence of the Supreme Lord, either in this world or in the next, and engage in his service. That is the ultimate goal and benediction for the devotees. And of course, people, they have different they have different conceptions of the absolute truth. People think, okay, the absolute truth, it's impersonal, like a light or something. And then, of course, mentioned in here in the Bhagavatam, we do accept impersonal feature of Krishna. And then there's the Paramatma feature, the God in everyone's heart. And then there's Krishna, the personality of God, Supreme Personality of Godhead, personal aspect. So this particular knowledge of these different three aspects of absolute truth, yeah, there's a lot of confusion about this, actually. Like we were discussing the other day, that people think, I'm God, you're God. So much confusion going on. Or I think there's no God, or so many different. I remember Tirtha Maharaj and Kanai Balai. They were driving down from LA. They're getting some books or something. Shastradan. We have big Shastradan here, San Diego. But they're driving down and they stopped at a rest stop. And, they see Tirtha Maharaj dressed in his saffron cloth and they Kanai Balai is there. And then a man comes up to him and he says, "Oh, hey, how you guys doing? Yeah. Oh, you're a monk. Oh, nice, cool." And then he said, "Oh, I just want to tell you guys something." And then Tirtha goes, "Oh, yeah, what's that?" And the guy says, "Oh, I'm God." He says, "I'm God." And then Tirtha Maharaj says, "Oh, very nice to meet you. We've been, chanting about you and, this and that. Very nice to meet." And then Kanai Balai starts laughing. And then Tirtha Maharaj starts laughing. And then it becomes like a hysterical laughing, because, Kanai Balai, he could, when he gets going, in general, when people get going, you could keep on going. So that's what happened. It became a laughing event. They're feeding off each other's laughter, laughing, laughing, laughing. And then the guy, he got really upset. I think he just walked away. I need to get the details from Kanai Balai, but so kind of humbling. He got humbled, right? God got humbled. Of course, he's not God. So yeah, that's the beauty of Srila Prabhupada's books, because they're just every page. You just can't get away. I mean, you read Sri Upanishad. I've heard devotees, they read Sri Upanishad, and Prabhupada just like, because Sri Upanishad, it's a lot of it's talking, in some purport, Srila Prabhupada's talking about, how we're not God, and how that's so, and proving, completely dismantling, right, impersonalism, as Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra says, right? That's what he came for. So, and that is the Pranam Mantra. It's a statement. It's Srila Prabhupada's mission. He's coming to deliver, the Western countries, of course, the world, but from impersonalism, voidism, which is ever rampant in the world, like uncontrolled. Yeah. So it's we can help Srila Prabhupada in that, in making his message far, by distributing his message far and wide through transcendental book distribution, and ourselves, learning books and also trying to communicate to people. Because you could say, for example, we go out and we pump out all these books, I'm using the word pump, but we pump out all these books, pass out all these books, distribute all these books, right? And then people come and they're like coming to talk to us. "Oh, so hey, like, can you tell me, kind of explain to me?" And we're kind of like fumbling, trying to explain what's in the books, or we don't exactly get it right, or we're not able to convince them. That's very important, because the books, they convince people, that's true, but when they come, they want to speak with someone, and they want that person to represent what's in the books in terms of qualities of devotee, but also convincing them. They need to be convinced. Like, I'm talking to this guy at the lounge recently, Albert. I don't think he's listening, but he's a challenging person. And he told me, he said, "Oh, I can't believe you keep on dealing with me, because most people who deal with me, they actually get mad, And I was just kind of smiling, and while he was telling me that, I said, "No, I'm not getting, I could try to deal with you." But he asked challenging questions, and he said, "I'm not trying to be rude. I just want to know." And yeah, I could see how people could get upset by the questions he asked, but I'm just trying to convince them, of the philosophy of Krishna consciousness and the practice of it. And he's, gradually coming around. He says, "Oh, every time," anyways, sorry for using myself as example, but it's a point of trying to convince people. But he says, "Every time I meet with you," he says, I'm gradually coming around, more and more and more." So anyways, I gave him some beads too, some japa beads, and he has a YouTube channel. And he said, "Yeah, I was thinking about doing like, people do challenges. Yeah, I'm gonna drink, whatever, whatever." I couldn't come up with anything off the top of my head right now, but people, yeah, I'm gonna drink hot sauce for a month, and see what happens. All types of weird stuff. So he said, yeah, I was thinking about doing a challenge. I was thinking about, yeah, I'm gonna chant every day, for 30 days, see what happens. And then I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And I said, just like chant? He said, no, do everything. Wake up early in the morning. I'm gonna do the whole thing. I said, yeah, pretty good idea. Anyways, he's a nice guy, but his girlfriend was there too. She's also kind of nudging him too. She's kind of more easily accepting. But so, we could do what we can to try to people come. We try to encourage them. But and yeah, gradually people come around, and I mean, gradually we all came around. We're all sitting here, right? We came around. So we're coming around. So I'm trying to come around, but so yeah, those are just some points in relation to this verse and purport. So does anybody have any questions? Or there's an interesting thing brought up about free will, because Vijay Prabhu gave a class about free will yesterday, and there was a question posted on YouTube about Vasudev Dutt. He completely liberated the universe by his desire. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said, I'll go to hell I'll suffer for all these living entities, go to hell as long as it takes, but I want them to all be liberated, go back to Godhead. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he accepted that request, and he said he liberated the whole universe. Yeah, he wouldn't have to go to hell. And he accepted the request of everyone going back to Godhead. So, this idea of free will, it's like, were those people wanting to go back to Godhead? Or does generally people in the material world want to go back to Godhead? So anyways, that was brought up, but that's kind of a different discussion. But yeah, Maharaj, you had a...
I'm working on a question, but just about this challenge idea. It's a true story, and Shruti will confirm it. In South Africa, when the devotees first started there, it was under apartheid, and we couldn't even register as the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. We had to register as the South African Society, and they were always concerned about, nonprofit NGOs, and were they actually some political agitation. So they were very, very heavy, the South African government. So unbeknownst to us, they sent 2 government agents to live with the devotees. And they, in order to, to scope out what are we really about, and are we political agitators, and, so they shaved up. They did that to actually get into the, as moles, to get into what's actually going on. They actually lived in the temple for about 4 months, shaved up, following the whole everything, morning program, whole thing. And after 4 months, they reported back to their government officers. These are very good people. They're, they're just well-wishers of everyone, and they're deep, whatever. And by the way, we're giving up our government commission, and we're joining. And they actually moved into the temple.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So they took a 4-month challenge.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen. You're talking about piety and how we're beyond piety and we just, surrender to Krishna. Well, you've got fanatics, kill a kami for Christ, and we've got all kinds of, horrible acts have been performed. You look at the whole Middle Ages and the Christian Crusades, and so you're saying you're beyond piety, you're beyond morality, and you just do what God tells you to do, and that's the highest standard. My gosh, look what that's done to history. Look at those crazy guys. I mean, the ISIS, and they're convinced that they're beyond piety.
Yeah,
they're just doing the will of God.
Yeah, there's.
Are you a secret mullah?
No, I don't think. No. There's. Yeah, I mean, purity. Being a pure devotee, it includes whatever's needed in the realm of piety. Whereas in the realm of piety, it doesn't include yeah, it doesn't include the the necessary components of the pure platform. It means, oh, I'm just doing this for Krishna. I'm doing this for the love of God, for the actual love of God. It means not some speculative. Yeah, it's not like some speculative. Sorry, I can't get that word up, but you get the speculative thing based on oh, the whims, my own whims. Hey, well, these guys are evil. These guys are heathens or mlechas, or yeah, I'm just going to take them out. It's not based on that because, yeah. Anyways, we're not going to do that. These are just crazy ideas of crazy men. But yeah, we base things on sadhu, shastra, and guru. So we're not. It's not that, okay, well, hey, I'm above piety and I could just do any crazy thing I want. But yeah, again, whatever's needed within the realm of piety is there within a pure devotee or within the pure platform. But yeah, again, not everything that's needed, the necessary components of a pure motives are there in a pious person's life, and they're just because they can't be because they're not on that platform. Like a pious person, they give whatever. For example, they may give donations and they may this and that, do so many things, and that's good. I mean, Krishna says is person should do that. But of course, a person should go beyond that. And beyond that means that, okay, they're just doing it for the pleasure of Krishna completely. There's no even like sense of like anything else, any other motive besides just pleasing Krishna. But of course, that pleasing Krishna has to be in line with Shastra, scripture, and the guru and the sadhus. So if we have some ideas, we go to the sadhus, the saintly persons, and we go to the guru, the spiritual master, and say, oh, what do you think about this? And if they're actual saintly persons and they're actually gurus, and they'll give us the right ideas. So yeah, kind of like the idea of just piety only brings us so far. So anyways, I hope that
Not the way I was thinking, but thank you very much, Balaram.
Thank you.
Maharaj. We're talking about devotional service being transcendental to piety, and one of the 64.
And we're also talking about that being used as an excuse
for abuse and atrocities against so many. So one of the principles, 64 principles of devotional service is that one not harm or disturb any other living entities, no matter how insignificant they may be. So that's an aspect that unless you directly were to attack us, then we would never want to harm or disturb you in any way.
Yeah.
You're God's child, just as we are, and all respect given.
Yeah.
That point about the free will, in this purport, there's a little reference that could be used addressing it, that how is it their free will if they were automatically given love of Godhead and taken back to Godhead? Well, we understand that every living entity is eternally Krishna conscious within the heart, the original consciousness of the living being. So when one it would be given that gift, then just like Dhruva Maharaj in the presence of the Lord, he forgot all his material desires.
Yeah.
Nothing of this world or of liberation compares to love of God. So they would not feel like their arm was being twisted and broken, forced to go back. They would gladly accept that benediction.
Yeah, it's a great point. I was thinking about that, what you're saying, because many people, they come like, he won't mind Mukunda Charna Prabhu. He was telling me, he said, I came and, I wasn't thinking of he said, I didn't have real interest in spiritual life or like in spiritual practice. And to be quite honest, a lot of the things that, because a lot of the things, they teach in college nowadays and this and that, some of the aspects of Christian consciousness, they just don't mix. I'm going to get in details, but also Alex was telling me this too, our Bhakti Alex here. He was saying, he would listen to the live stream because you were meditating before and chanting, and he was kind of like worshiping Hanuman before he came to the temple and things like that. So he would tune into our live stream here, and he would hear devotees say things that just don't exactly mesh well with modern postmodern views, materialistic postmodern. So, and so many things, and we get into so many details, but then he said, then they say, yeah, I got a book, and yeah, I'm kind of okay, I'll check it out, and then you come and meet the devotees, and the devotees start kind of working on your heart a little bit, and you got Krishna also, right? Srila Prabhupada, and then there's some kind of transformation that happens. There's a transformation that's happening, So in that way, their free will is kind of it's changing. They're wanting more and more, so to become
my one question.
devotee. So in other words, Krishna and the devotees are melding their hearts. So that's what's happening.
I had a question about your class. I always find it nectarian and intriguing that Lord Chaitanya repeatedly heard the pastimes of Dhruva and Prahlad Maharaj.
Mm-hmm.
And you said there's a lesson to be learned from that.
Yeah.
So I've never heard anybody per se succinctly put their finger on what is that lesson? What principle do you think it is in Dhruva Leela that attracted Lord Chaitanya so much?
Yeah, I was also thinking that same question. That's why I said there's a lesson to be learned from this, and I left it at that. So but you have that shloka here where it's saying where was his maturity? So in other words, where was his maturity? But still, the whole time he was doing it for a material reason the whole time. But because he was so serious about it, and then Lord Vishnu came. So what I'm thinking is that because this verse, where was his maturity, and so on, these different personalities, not having the material qualifications, it's really showing the greatness of Krishna, that he's just so merciful, that a person may be disqualified in so many ways, but if they're trying and they're engaged, then Krishna awards them.
Determined following of the spiritual master,
Yeah.
no matter the motive.
Yeah, also determined. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, too.
Another thing is that
Following
we
the
hear
Guru.
how the pastimes of Krishna are ever fresh. So great devotees also, hearing about their surrender, it's pastimes also. It's
Yeah.
ever fresh.
Yes.
Another thing about the Vasudeva Dutt wanting everybody to be liberated, and Lord Chaitanya described they actually were liberated. So there's Kripa Siddhi,
Yeah.
and there's Sadhana Siddhi. So this is the mercy of the devotee, that even though they didn't have any search or desire to go back to God, just the mercy of the devotee, they were
Yeah, it's amazing.
liberated.
I think Bajrang told me how.
Even though they had this, that free will is there, but the mercy of the devotee just they went back home.
Yeah, it's amazing. In the Nectar Devotion, Prabhupada says, it's written there that just by the glance, actually, of a great devotee, and by the good wishes. Yeah.
Of course, that's Lord Nityananda.
Yes.
But
As an example of, you were saying, by association of devotees, it has a effect and it wears off on them, wears them down, their material resistance. I remember there was, I'll say his name because he's passed away, Keshava, Kurandar's brother. He was our temple commander. He'd been in the Marines. He made his money before he met the devotees. Going down to, there was a infamous restaurant called Diamond Jim's down. So people would come, if we were a tourist, it was a famous place to eat, So they would come to Diamond Jim's. And right next to Diamond Jim's was a long, dark alley. And he would mug people. That was his occupation. He was a robber. And because people would come out of there, he'd wait for a single businessman to come out completely drunk, 11 o'clock at night. And he'd just grab him by the collar, pull him down the alley, punch him, and take his wallet. And he was, worked a couple hours a week and paid his, everything was going fine, And he met the devotees, so became a devotee. But here's the thing I remember seeing. I was helping as a bhakta with the pujari staff. And I remember the door of the the altar opened up a little bit. You could see. And here was he was a big guy. He was a big solid guy. And he had short, stubby fingers. He had a puncher's, And I remember seeing him with those little, that big hand, that, mitt of a hand. And he had a little comb, and he was combing little Radharani's hair, little small to make her braid, And you had this practically a gorilla frame and his big hand and this little comb. And I was thinking, this is just a most amazing thing. Oh, look at Guru Kripa. I mean, how is it possible that they became very gentle, nice.
Grantrad Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The transformative effect of a devotee association ki jai.